Thanks for listening again to 43rd Missions podcast, the other side. We're back here with Battalion Chief James. We're talking about another portion of our leadership series that we wanted to bring to you. Today's discussion is going to be on really the civil service process and how that has both shaped in good and bad the challenges with it, and how we can work with the civil service process in both the hiring and promotional process within the first responder community. And James, you and I had some great discussions that led up to this particular podcast regarding how you guys have kind of used the rules and guidelines and worked within them to get more of a favorable outcome to hiring and promoting the people that you wanted, as opposed to just doing it the same way we've done it in the past.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah, good. I think first and foremost, I want to say that getting to the point where we are today took trust. It took the willingness to say, I was wrong, or this isn't working, or we need to look at this a different way. And that, I think that's going to be crucial for any like large organizational change, because when you make the change, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are doing the right thing. It just means you think you're doing something that's going to make it better, and you got to be able to assess it and have that open dialogue. So
yeah,
the organization that I work for, we believe in hiring at the base of it all, good people that are coachable. That's it. That's basically the statement in a nutshell that I can say we lean into when we hire.
And that flies in the face of the civil service process. I think with regard to civil service process, we're talking about the rules and guidelines and stuff that we have to do to make sure that this process is justifiable to the city and we can hire off of it. And I think it probably comes from a place of good intentions many years ago.
Yeah.
And what it's evolved into has been somewhat of in my experience, a really difficult process to overcome in getting exactly what you're asking for, is the right people that are coachable.
Yeah. And I think one of the first things that we dove into is like, someone just asked a question one time, why is a test score weighted at this percent and the oral board is rated at this percent? For this example, we can call it a 70-30 split. So your written test score is worth 70% of your overall score, while your interview is worth 30% of your overall score. And we had a lot of good discussion. I was a classic 84% test taker, and so we would sit in rooms and I would throw myself out to the group and say, like, when we look at me, I'm an 84% test taker, and we look at another person within our organization that is a 98% test taker, can you quantify the difference between me and them? And can we write the differences down? What does the 97% bring to our organization that I don't? And then on the inverse, when we figured out we couldn't come up with any valid answers there, what do I bring to the organization that maybe some of our 97% test takers haven't brought to the organization?
Yeah.
And the reality of it is this: we're all individuals, and that 97% test taker may bring something to the organization that I don't, and vice versa. I bring things that they don't. And that's really where we started to root down on this: good people and coachable. And when we got down to that, we realized the written test score is a bar. It's a pass-fail. It's can you meet a minimum expectation? And then we want to bring you in and meet you and get to know you and understand who you are, what you believe in, and what are your morals, and what drives you, and what have you done before you came in here? Were you in the military? Were you a teacher? Were you a coach? And then we can start compiling all those things and go, well, what we know about the qualities that these people are bringing, they're going to be good fits in our organization. And they also seemed really coachable. They're open to new ways of doing things. And some of that boils down to, as we talked before, like, what questions are you asking?
Yeah.
Tell me about a time where you were wrong and you had to be told you were wrong, and what did you learn and how did you fix it? And the answer can't be like, well, I misspelled a word and they told me how to spell correctly. It's, no, I want meat. I want a story. I want experience to prove to me that you can be coached. so we went through this whole process, and I can say that I'm a believer in the process that we do now for our entry level hiring. I think we've hired a lot of really good people. I'm going to use the D word, diversity. I also believe we're a diverse organization, and this has allowed us to accomplish that. It's allowed us to accomplish diversity in a number of ways. And we can talk about gender, we could talk about race, ethnicity. Yes, that's diversity. We have a lot of awesome people that work for us.
Man, I'm so glad you said that.
So many backgrounds.
Yes.
They know a lot of things. They've been engineers. They've been heavy equipment operators. They were pastors who are no longer in the church because they've decided it wasn't for them. They are musicians. We interviewed a guy one time. We didn't hire him, but we interviewed a guy one time who's like investing and learning basically how to drop packages from drones for Amazon, which is awesome. And man, it makes strong teams. When you have all that on the table, there's not a day that goes by that we usually can't find an answer somewhere. Like, oh, you were in IT. Besides a hard reboot, how do I fix this? Or you're a welder, or like all these things matter.
Yeah, I want to dive into that a little bit because that is so important to me. I did almost a 4-year stint as a hiring sergeant, right? And so I got intimately familiar with the civil service process, how it all works, civil service meetings, and making sure everything was by the book the way they wanted it. And at the end of that 4 years, I got to tell you, I lost a tremendous amount of faith and respect for the organization because of how they allowed or interpreted this idea of diversity. They were constantly hounding me on what diversity means to them or to some outside structure or someone in the organization, in the city that talks about diversity. And I kept saying things like, I've got people that see problems in a different way. They come from diverse backgrounds. They come from a diverse, experiences and skill sets. And, some speak different languages, and all they wanted to focus on was their version of diversity. And I kept telling them that's not how we build teams. And one of the best examples I could think of is like, okay, if you're on a high risk team, I don't want to talk about Navy SEALs because I don't have any experience with them, but I just admire them and I can imagine. But if you're on a team like that, performing at the peak level, you need a new sniper. Are you looking for diversity in your sniper because of race, age, gender, identity, whatever that is? Or are you looking for the guy that's best at the job, or gal, the person that sees Overwatch or something differently than I do on the ground, right? I've got my skill set. I need the person that sees this problem differently, that can supplement the team. And part of that is also, does your team know their strengths and weaknesses? Do you talk about it? Do you lay it out there and say, okay, we're ready for this promotional exam. Here's the good, bad, and ugly about our team, but we have identified that these are our weaknesses in the team. So we'd be wise to find somebody that fills those holes, even though it might be someone we don't necessarily expect. It doesn't look like we thought this person would look like, or whatever. Right? But be willing to be open and be like, no, but this person has these strengths that supplement our team. And is that something that you guys do when you are looking for new promotions or even new firefighters?
I think when we look at entry level work, we walk away from our interviews going like, they genuinely seemed like the best person. They're a good person. And to us, it doesn't matter. The stats don't matter. And sometimes the best person was a woman. Sometimes it might be a different race or ethnicity. And all those things are going to happen. And I think what's awesome about where we're at in our process and our thoughts and feelings towards our hiring process is we've just feel very confident in how we've defined who we want. And there's typically no waffling. Sometimes the waffling is like, how do you choose? Because they all seem rad,
that's a good problem.
And I could hire all of them, and that is difficult. And that sometimes is when you do lean into the civil service rules and say like, well, overall, all things being equal, this person scored the best. And maybe sometimes that you lean into that and say, okay, like that means something now because everything else is equal. And if we have to have a tiebreaker, fine. But I think even
you guys are committed. Once you make that decision, this is how we want to structure the exam.
Yeah.
And the questioning, you guys are committed to staying to that as opposed to anything other politically influenced or something like that.
Correct.
I'll be honest. I mean, for good or bad, I mean, I'm not saying it's good or bad. It just is what it is. And the fact is, like the organization I work for right now, it's very political. I mean, it's political. Politics play a huge influence on it, and it would be ignorant of me to think that should never take place because it does.
Yeah.
And I can agree or disagree with it or not, and I can fit in or not fit in. But the bottom line is we have to agree that there is a massive influence of politics, especially on a city level, as opposed to for police, as opposed to like a county where it's elected officials.
Yeah.
So, ignoring those or being able to navigate those through a city, you guys seem to be doing a pretty good job of it.
I think we are. I can genuinely sit here and tell you that I don't think we've ever reached on a hire. I don't think so.
What do you mean by that?
I don't think we've reached to fulfill some sort of political idea or desire from the government in and of itself within the city organization. I believe that in the processes I've been involved in, and based on the outcome of the processes that I haven't been involved in, we've held true to hiring the best person. Are you a good person? Can we coach you? And I think so much of what we do is just coming back to that. And then we get that good person, regardless of who they are, and we can teach them how to be in the fire department and operate in the fire department. And sometimes that takes a little more patience with some people than it does with others. But if you're getting the coachable person, it's all achievable.
Yeah.
And so I don't think we've ever reached. We've never like circumvented, at least in the most recent past, our kind of fundamental desire on how we hire. Part of the work we've done with civil service hasn't been easy because, of course, change can't be easy, and it took some education on what we were trying to get to. Where are we trying to get with this process? And getting the Civil Service Commission to understand, like, what are we trying to do, and how can you help us get there within these sets of rules? Which ones of these rules can we amend or change or fix to help us get there? So it took some education.
But you were able to change, like you talked about, the scoring matrix. When I did that hiring, I was spot on with the exact same values. I wanted good people with a desire to do the job that are coachable. Mm-hmm. I think by and large we do a great job finding those people because they're trying to come to us because they want the job. But I never really had a good influence over the process or doing what you did, and I think that's my mistake, and that's why I was so encouraged to hear how you did it. So I want to hear more about how you guys did that.
Like I said, a lot of it was educating civil service, and then ultimately it was taking a new plan to civil service. So just a new exam plan and saying, like, we believe this exam plan meets the intention of the rule. And then, ultimately through education and attention to detail and bringing a good exam plan, educating ahead of time, the Civil Service Commission viewed it in our favor and said, yeah, we believe it matches the intention of the rule as well. That we're not doing something that was never intended by the people who made these. Mm-hmm. What it did,
because there is, just for anybody who has not experienced that, there is rules, right? Mm-hmm. And we have to fit within those rules. And for the by and large, it creates kind of a consistent experience for the people that are going through it. And there's some good things about that. But I think what a lot of folks don't realize is those rules have also limited us in a number of ways, because you get these candidates on a list. Mm-hmm. Now they're ranked in an order. Which, I mean, how do you rank a person's merit in order, right? That's a very difficult thing to grasp and to do. So, and then they live on this list, and we can only hire in order on this list with a few exceptions.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's kind of the process that you and I talked about, how we can make that list have the people that we look at that we want first.
And that's where we were running into problems with the written test. So, you would get 70% of your overall score would be the written exam. And it would be hard. The top 10 people on a written test would have to bomb an oral board, and the people in the mid to upper 80s would have to ace it to even squeeze the list enough to maybe fight their way into it. And so it was more limiting that way than it is today for us. And so when you're looking at trying to find the best people, don't we want to cast a broad net? Don't we want to see as many people as we can? And the problem is the way our written test score was happening, it was limiting how far we could cast a net. Mm-hmm. And no one could overcome an 85% on a written test, even with a great oral interview. We could have loved your interview, but it wasn't going to be good enough to overcome that really good written test score.
Yeah.
And knowledge is necessary. And I don't want to take away from that. But when we got down to it, it was quantifying what amount of knowledge is necessary. Like tell me what the difference between an 80 and a 90 is.
Right.
Show me the value difference. And we couldn't articulate that in any sort of sensible way. So it didn't seem fair. I would almost argue that at that point in time, the civil service rules were unfair, because they were limiting opportunity for a lot of people to be seen, heard, and potentially hired. Mm. And so when we went through this, I guess fast forwarding to kind of the leadership component of this, is it also allowed us to look at it and go, how are we doing our promotional evaluations? Yeah. How are we building those lists? And we took the same approach. Yeah, you're going to be tested at some sort of written level, but that's 30% of your overall score.
Okay.
The other 70% of your score comes from performance evaluations in like sim labs, oral interviews.
So scenarios.
Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna put you in a immersive tactical evaluation to see, can you perform on a call, a high stress call, and then 2, we're gonna put you in a room with an engine company and see, can you articulate your expectations to a group of people as a leader.
Oh, nice.
And we're going to take you from there, and we're going to go do a formal oral interview and say, can you answer the questions of, like, who are you as a leader? What are your values?
Yes.
What do you bring to the leadership team here at this fire department?
Yeah, and I think what you're talking about to me speaks volumes, because it's part of my leadership process and my curriculum and how I define myself as a merit-based servant leader. So merit, what you're getting at the bottom of, is how do we test, understand, and get people to talk and get the scorers to understand actual merit? Because my frustration with the civil service process, especially for promotional, is merit is absent. Mm-hmm. And that's frustrating, because they'll say, like, oh, well, the question should be enough to pull that merit out. And I'm like, they're really not. Mm-hmm. What have you done? What do you know about this organization? Where's the strengths and weaknesses? Where do you fit in, and what's your plan? And if you don't have that, or you don't ask that, then people are just talking generically about books they've read or things they've done. And I get so frustrated with people that are like, well, I don't know if I'm a good leader, but I'll test and we'll find out, or I'm going to try and get the experience.
I'll learn while I'm there.
The time to get the experience is long before that test.
Yeah.
But how do we pull that out of people?
Yeah. I think going through this sim lab, and it's a long day, and you're tired when it's over.
Yeah.
I want to say, typically it's 5-ish different stations that you get pulled to. And over the years, we've had opportunities to showcase our ELA skills and type some sort of document.
Sure.
A lot of times that includes an oral presentation. So can I present an idea to a group of people in a concise way that makes sense to them? Can I take something that I've written on a piece of paper and then present it orally without that paper? Because what I think, when you have to type something out and then represent it orally without that paper, that's genuine. Because I can't make stuff up on a sheet of paper and then an hour later go talk about it.
Yeah.
Because because it's
no books, no internet, no Google.
Yeah, I'll be like, can I? There was 3 points. Can I check my paper one more time and see what the other point was? But a lot of those questions are thought provoking. Like going back to the word diversity, like describe what diversity within a team means to you.
Yeah.
Talk about an opportunity where you've been given a chance to mentor an employee and utilize leadership skills in an informal setting.
Yeah.
And so they're thought provoking, and you get plenty of time to do it. And again, it goes back to some of that merit. Like, show me you can do it.
Show me you have.
Show me how you've done it.
Yeah.
And that's probably the thing that we worry about the least in all of it. And this kind of goes back to the give me a good person and I'll coach them. The thing I worry least about when I look at the end result is the tactical.
We can teach
because
that.
I think I can just teach you.
Yeah.
Yes, I need a baseline. I need to know that we're not going to kill somebody on your first day on the job. But if there's polish points, we can polish.
Yeah.
We can build from a good, strong foundation. Show me you have an understanding, and we'll build proficiency.
Yeah.
But it's the intangibles that we so often have to use as leaders that I want to pull out in that process and say, oh, they have it. Mm-hmm. That they're going to provide something that we don't have right now, or they have something that we will benefit greatly from when they're a leader within our organization. And I think we've seen that right now. One of the guys we've most recently promoted, I think less than a year, time flies. I think it's been less than 1 year. He's provided a couple what I would call organizational enhancements to the leadership team. And that's awesome.
Yeah.
One, that he's welcomed to do that.
Right.
Two, that we picked somebody who clearly had a plan and can recognize needs and can find a way to address them and solve the problem. So, I think finding the merit piece in the sim lab day is so important.
You got to find a way and the other frustrating part for me for the civil service process is they want to make sure they bring in people that don't know you. It's a fresh start. And I'm like, well, I understand that from a scoring perspective, but let me tell you about what it was like before I became a cop to work in the civilian sector. It was the exact opposite. I want to, your leader or someone who owns or is vested in this organization wants to know exactly who you are. They've already observed your merit. So basically what it comes down to is the exact opposite. And I say, like, you don't test for promotion in a true civilian marketplace, unless with some exceptions, but in a smaller firm like we were, you earn it. And the boss comes to you and says, we're going this direction. I need you to do this. Here's your strengths, your weaknesses. Here's how you fit in the team. You're the guy.
Yeah.
There is no packet and assessment center and to strangers, right? And I get frustrated with that when I see it because I'm like, man, you have to fill out everything from the very beginning like they don't know who you are. And they're like, well, that's a fairness thing. And I'm like, yeah, but we lose merit when we do that. We lose the ability to understand merit. So
I'll break your heart a little bit because we do moderately use strangers within our process.
You have to.
That's one component of the civil service rules that we haven't conquered. It's interesting because this conversation is coming up and it's happening within our organization and it's happening within our organization based on being a helper in another neighboring organization. And it's interesting because it's going to come up and it wasn't my idea. I'm not stealing ideas, but the problem was recognized. And we've talked about it loosely, and it goes back to within your circle of trust. Can we have conversations that are tough? Can we be vulnerable and bring ideas to the group that might sound ridiculous at first, but allow ourselves to be heard and digest? And so it'll be interesting to see where we go because I'd like to tell you that we're going to be the first fire department in the area to accept the fact that maybe some of our SMEs, our subject matter experts, should be in the scoring of these assessments. But what does happen is we get the opportunity to train the evaluators ahead of time. So we get to talk to them. The chief gets to speak to them. Organizationally, we get to tell them what we look for in our organization these are the things that are important. We get to tailor the weighting of the score to the things that are important to us.
And you can do that within the rules.
Yep. Yeah. And so we take full advantage of the things that we can control to make sure it yields the product. And then at the end, it's a significant debrief, and it's investing in debriefing with those evaluators and saying, okay, candidate A, you scored here. Can you tell me why? Go back to your notes and refer to what did they do or what did they say that was like, oh, candidate E knocked it out of the park in the expectations to his engine company because he had a clear, concise plan, could get buy-in, commanded the respect of the room.
Yes.
And so we get these things back. That feedback really matters.
So the feedback comes from who?
The evaluators. And the evaluation process is rigorous. Being an evaluator is a pain.
Yeah.
I've helped with other ones, and you're like, man, it's a full day. And when you're done with whatever station you're evaluating, each candidate gets like a half a sheet of paper of notes that are, one, subjective, where we think you can improve and be better, but two, is your score and has actionable statements as to why your score was what it is. And, allowing the debrief after is very important. The other piece to this is, we've talked a little bit about like the rules, and in our entry process we have the rules of 7. So for every 1 spot we have at the chief level interview, he can see the top 7 candidates, and for every spot we add after that, we can kick 1 more into the pool. So if we're hiring 2, then we can see 8. If we're hiring 3, we can see 9. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then we utilize a rule of 3 typically for our promotional processes. Yeah. Usually because in a lot of organizations, 7, at least in a small to medium organization, 7 might be the entire list, or you might not even have 7.
It might not, yeah.
So there does have to be some controls there. But I think sometimes as administrators, and again, full disclosure, I've never been a chief. I don't know that I want to be, but maybe someday. We get sucked into, well, you were number 1, and because I don't want to play favorites, or I don't want to be viewed like I'm choosing somebody for an alternative reason, we just go with the person who finished number 1.
Yeah.
When in fact, number 3 might be the person. And I'll say,
I think that's okay, because your job as a leader is to understand where that fits and build that team. So
yeah, number 3 might be the best fit.
Right.
And let's be honest, the difference between 1 and 3 might be 3%. Yeah. So again, I would challenge someone to quantify in writing the loss we're getting in 3%. If you think that number 3 is the best fit for the team, right? I think our organization's embraced that theory, that we can buck the norm.
Yeah.
And make a decision based on who we think is best right now.
Yeah, and I've seen that happen as well, and I think it's overall a good thing.
Yeah.
It causes a lot of heartache and waves with other people, but you have to understand, like, that's their choice. You got to respect that's the way that plays out, and I think preserving that's a good idea if you got someone that's building the right team, because it may not be you.
Yeah,
and that's hard to swallow when you did all this hard work and you got this score, and now you think, oh, I'm first across the finish line, I deserve it.
And it can be awkward as the one who got chosen, and I've been in that position, and you're like, oh man, I wasn't the top of the list, and I we have a lot of professional respect for each other, and
but it's some resentment.
Yeah, you're like, oh man, but that doesn't mean that person who was number 1 isn't the right fit at some point in time in the organization. Just means right now, today, this person has a skill set or qualities that we need to lead a team forward. And I think that is the piece that, if I was a chief, I would lean into. That would be the conversation piece with the folks that didn't get the opportunity. It doesn't mean that you're not a good leader.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you aren't a fantastic employee or deserving of a chance. Means right now in this moment in time, this person is who we need in this position. And those reasons can vary depending on where your organization's at, given different timing, place and time, current events, the reason why there was a vacancy to begin with.
Like I said, that goes back to politics, current events. Like you said, here's what we're looking for. Here's the image that we need, or here's like the stopgap we need to fill, or whatever. One of the things I want to ask you about, if you do this, and I think you alluded to it, because I think we've done it. I've seen this recently in several years, and I think for the most part, it's very good. The weighting could be questionable as to where weights in the overall process, but is that performance review from people that are in the work group that the promotion is going into. I found that incredibly valuable to be able to have a voice of who's joining your team, and do you really think that they are a good fit, which I think has been awesome. Do you guys do that?
So we just recently went through a promotional process, and we gave it a whirl.
Yeah.
And the consensus, at least right now, leaving that process was it wasn't bad. It was difficult to use a scoring rubric to dictate where all these people land. And how can we fit that in the process and still use a rubric, but in a more subjective manner, if that makes sense? So, what we tried to do was use the work performance review, the WPR, in the place of a written exam, because I think the group saw the benefit of the work performance review being more meaningful than can you read Brannigan's Building Construction and answer 100 questions on I-beams and trusses.
For sure. It's an attempt to find merit.
Yep. Yeah. And or read the random leadership book that we just picked off a list because the company said that's one they have a test for.
Yeah.
Even though we don't know if it fits the organization that we're promoting within. What we found was it did create a fantastic opportunity for conversation, and it allowed people to learn things about folks that we wouldn't have otherwise known, because we don't all work together every day.
Right.
There's people from one shift trying to promote that I've worked with 15 times over their career. So how do I know everything about them? Of course I love the guys on my crew that want to promote, because I feel like I've mentored them and I've instilled these values in them and I want them to succeed, but that doesn't mean they're the best. So I need to know about employee from C shift or B shift because I don't know. And so you start to learn these things and you realize, man, that would be highly valuable in our organization. Where we ran into a problem was then we had to put a number. We had to score them on these things. And there were some other intricacies that led to it being difficult. I think the front end, working with the organization that we used to run our process, it wasn't extremely clear on the front end when some of the groundwork was being laid, how this, we were asked to rate certain like integrity, they would give you these values or these qualities of leaders or the role of fire lieutenant, for example, and then you would have to try to score them, you would weight them out of a level of importance. Well, I don't think it was extremely clear how all that was going to work when the test happened. Mm-hmm. So then some of the folks were like, I wish we could go back and reevaluate now that I know how the process works. So all that to say in a long way is I don't necessarily know that we see it in our next promotional exam, but the conversation's not off the table as we look to fine-tune how we utilize the tool in our process.
Yes, and that's where you and I started talking originally. I'm like, we have a lot more here than we think we give ourselves credit for.
Yeah.
Because we do that too, the work-based performance review, and I think for the most part, it's very valuable. The problem I've had with it is the same thing. Like, we score these people, so now they get scored. What does that score mean? Are we being told from the top down, this is the person that we're looking for, strengths, weaknesses, this is the hole we want them to fill. So who do you think, from your perspectives and working with these people, fills that gap the best for the team? And we never get that down because it's never defined. So I see that happen in two ways. One is to just do it like that, or two, have your matrix, and then somewhere up top, they weight the matrix for the qualities that they're looking for, and that helps it be more blind for us. We're just honest review, here it is, and then they can weight, these values that they want to see.
And I think we wanted to lean more into the work group that was receiving this new team member, and we did a little bit, but I think if we could do it again, we'd lean into it even more. Like, we're promoting a fire lieutenant, let's really lean into that fire lieutenant work group to help us go through this. Because
who do you want? Who do you work with? Who fills the gaps?
Because they're working with that firefighter at a much closer level than I am as a battalion chief. I'd like to think I have a pretty good pulse on how all my folks are operating.
But that's from your perspective.
But at the end of the day, we only assume our children are good when we're not around. Right?
Right.
So... that's not to minimize. That's not to minimize or bash on anybody who works for me. Like, I have the full trust in them, but it's like, those lieutenants are with them, in some of the more integral moments of the job. They're right there next to them, so they can be like, hey, real headsy move on this incident. So when we look at like tactical decision making, he or she scores well. I'm not standing there having those talks.
And that's the problem, I think, with, again, that we keep coming back to this process. It always comes down to a score, and we have to get this final score, and so we focus on the score and not necessarily the value system or, the traits that we're looking for. So maybe that could be blindly to us, for example. We just give them, and then they can weight what they're looking for, the score to what qualities that they're looking for, because I've noticed even in those meetings we have a tendency to be like, well, that's a good score, but it's just one score. Like, well, that's a good score, but and then we start comparing scores to other people, and we're like, well, where does it fit into that score? And so it is really difficult to put that figure on it.
Well, I remember looking at it and going like, okay, we have candidate A scored this much on this topic, and then I look at candidate E got this score, and I think it's what you're saying. And in my mind, I'm like, I know both of these people pretty well.
Yeah.
And I don't know how did we get to the spread?
Yeah.
Like, I put them on paper. I think about them in my head. They're equal.
Yeah.
They're interchangeable. They're the same person. They're the same employee. They're the same level of employee. How did we get that spread? And it was no fault of it. No one was trying to be like dishonest or sway anything, but it was kind of how it just laid out, because I don't think we had a good understanding of the groundwork that had to go into it to sort of build a product that yielded what we wanted. And that's where I think that our circle of trust and our leadership teams this is not a dead topic for us. It's how do we fit it into our process and make it work for us to yield what the outcome we're looking for. Not the outcome in making sure it yields the exact person we want, but the outcome in the sense of when it spits out the results, it makes sense to us. It's usable, it's defensible, it's all of those things that are going to come along with any part of your process. But I do find value in it, and I look forward to where we find it fit in our process long term.
I think we're fine-tuning it too, but I do find value in it. Let me ask you this. Have you ever seen, or do you find value in the work group that's being promoted from giving input on that person? So, for example, if you're promoting from a line level to first level supervision, do you ever get the formalized feedback from the people that were actually going to be led by this person?
Almost like a peer review.
Yep.
We have not.
Neither we. I mean, there's some informal stuff.
It's an interesting concept.
I sure hear a lot of talk.
Yeah.
And it would be nice for that to be captured in some way, because ultimately these people are being led, and if they're not going to be accepted, they're not going to accept their leader, we're going to have a challenge.
I think that's the big piece there, right? Is if we were getting this overarching negative feedback on a particular candidate,
Yeah.
that should be a flag for us to say, maybe now is not the time. Doesn't mean never. It means now is not the time.
Right.
And maybe it gives us an opportunity to mentor and look into the why. Like, why were we getting that? And how do we help that person like navigate that? Part of, I think, for me is our organization is, we'll call it schmedium.
Size?
Yeah. As far as like FTEs go, we sit around like the 60-ish mark, give or take. That allows for a fairly intimate working relationship with most everyone within the organization.
Yeah.
You know, there's organizations out there where, you know, just downtown, like at the rate they're hiring new people in Olympia, like they got to put signs on their refrigerator, like meet the new team member. And I get it, because it might be 3 months before the West Side folks meet the new team member. And you don't necessarily build a lot of close relationships all over the agency. And even you know, downtown is not a huge fire department, but they're bigger. But you start getting into like Seattle, Tacoma, I find a lot of value in that, because I might be a battalion chief in the West Division and not have a good idea of the people working within the East Division of the fire department. And so I kind of want that feedback.
Yeah.
I think the bigger you get, maybe the more important it is. I don't know if that's all that scientific of me to say, but it feels like it anyways.
Yeah, and maybe that's where the whole civil service process comes from originally, is from these larger agencies and where people don't know each other. And then we kind of trying to fit a square peg into a round hole to fit in the same with the state, right? Because one time I went to a huge city, dwarf Seattle, to hire a police officer who's a police officer down there. We went to go to lunch, and I asked him to choose your place for lunch. Let's, you know the place. And he's like, oh, this is my patrol district. Let's go here. As we were coming in the restaurant, a police officer in that same beat, or his patrol district, opened the door for us and said, hi, hey, thanks. You know, we had a little cordial meeting, and I was going to ask him about the candidate. And so I asked the candidate, I said, you know that guy? And he's like, no, I've never seen him before. And I'm like, so foreign to me that someone in your patrol district, it's so big that you may not even know them. And so then you translate that to like the promotional process, and it's like, a lot of this stuff, we're gonna need those answers because we just don't know them.
Yeah, I do feel like the bigger you get, the more important that feedback is.
Probably,
because we're pretty lucky. Like, I think for the most part, our leadership team has a pretty good pulse on most everybody working within our organization, and that doesn't mean that we know them better or the best, but I would say, like, I feel comfortable in having a fairly good understanding of where everyone's at organizationally.
Yeah.
Their level of output at work, their ability to function in certain situations, their weaknesses, their strengths. And I don't know them all intimately, but I have a general idea of that. And if I don't, I do know they're my peer on that crew who I can go to and get that information from, because like the reality of it is, you know, my shift, I supervise 12 people. I'm number 13. So I supervise 12 people. I get the opportunity to know all 12 of my people pretty well, which makes my job easier because I get to know them pretty well. And on an individual level, it allows me to customize my style better, and
maybe their assignments and
totally work, so anyways, that's kind of where we've been with our process. I don't want to sit here and like try to say that I'm tooting our horn that we have it figured out. We still occasionally hire someone that doesn't work out, and I don't think there's any process that's going to prevent that from happening. But I do feel like when you look at culture within an organization, I can almost start to draw the line back to like the foundation of our hiring practice. Good people, coachable. And like there's nobody I go to work with and go, not today. And I think for the most part, that would be a 90% response in our organization. That's
great.
Yeah. And I hate to speak for everyone within my organization because maybe I'm just blowing smoke right now, but I don't think I am.
Yeah.
Most people genuinely like everyone they work with. And I think I can start to draw the line back to the foundation of our hiring practice, which is good people, coachable.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that.
And embracing it.
Yeah.
Because it's not always going to be easy. When I say coachable, some people need to be coached.
Mm-hmm.
Some people get it right away. They come out of a 3-month academy and they're turnkey. They're ready to go. And some people have never started a chainsaw before.
Yeah.
That's okay. I could teach you how.
We could teach that. Yeah. As long as you're a good person, you're coachable.
Yeah.
And for me, a desire to do the job because we are so purpose driven in what we do that we will take a lot.
Mm-hmm.
We'll take a lot of crap. We'll take a lot of hopelessness. We'll take a lot of frustration. And I've experienced it. I got to a pretty bad place with that of hopelessness in the organization. But what I realize is we're so purpose driven in doing the job that we'll just take it even if it's unhealthy. So identifying those people and their strengths and using their strengths makes them happy. And if they're coachable, they can work on their weaknesses and not be offended.
Yeah. Right? You said hopelessness, which I think is like in our industry sometimes a synonym. I'm not an ELA major, but I hope it's a synonym.
Something similar.
With burnout.
Yes.
So it's like I'm hopeless or I'm burned out. I want to throw this quote your way that I wrote down before today.
Okay.
And it's by this guy named Frank Viscuso, who authored a book that I was tested on as a leader. And this was one of the books that was just picked off the sheet. And then we were tested on. We didn't know what the book was about when we chose it. But I took some nuggets away from it. And this guy, he's from the New York Fire Department. So he's been around. He kind of knows a thing or two about fire departments. And he talks about the culture of an organization is shaped by the worst behavior that a leader will tolerate. So as a leader, if I'm willing to tolerate someone who doesn't want to do their job, then that's eventually where the culture is going to go. And he goes on to talk about this idea of the burnout of people trying to make an organization better creates the burnout is created when we don't squash the bad behavior and stops that positive momentum. And I'll try to clean that up. So you're trying to make positive momentum in your agency, your organization. You're trying to make something better.
Yeah.
But while I'm doing this thing and I'm trying to put our trajectory on a 45-degree up, I have people around me that are completely fine with the baseline, the way it's always been, or maybe for some individuals, that 45-degree downward where you're like, that line should be the exit door to retirement or quitting, but we don't talk about those things.
Yeah.
That's what creates the burnout. Because you're just bashing your head in the wall trying to make the organization better. And yet we're tolerating this over here. Yeah. And I bring this up not because it's prevalent in my organization. I feel so blessed to be a part of the group that I'm with because I think our culture is rich and strong and we're in a very positive place. It doesn't mean we'll always be there. That's why we have to talk about how we got there and how we protect it. But I know this happens in organizations, and I know it happens in organizations close by to where I'm at. And all over the country for that matter. What I like your wheels are turning, so you dive into this. What do you think?
First, I'm going to start with this. You said something really important that you have people below you that are good with the norm or even on a downward trajectory. What about the people also above you? That happens too, where they're just good with the norm. And I've been told, in one particular case, I was told, like, you're the most pain in the ass instructor that I have. This was back when I was just an instructor, not in charge of the team. And I'm like, why? I came to you with a new idea. It's pretty exciting. He's like, because you're always pushing me. You're always pushing. You're always pushing to be better. You're always pushing for new things. He's like, why can't we just do the same thing we did last year?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is my job to push, right? But and not disparaging against that person in particular, but there is this attitude and culture like, can we just cruise? Can we just cruise?
Yeah.
I've got so much on my plate. Can we just cruise? And so in that frustration, like you said, I'm trying to create culture. I'm trying to bring new things to the department. I'm trying to, educate myself formally, educate myself informally, get the training, the experience, build the merit before I promote.
Yeah.
And, I bring these things to the table, and I met with words like, well, your words are too harsh. We're not capable of that. And I'm like, we are totally capable, but you just don't want to do the work. And so, I've also been told that, and this is probably hope, but I'm going to go a little 43rd Mission Wellness, where there are times when your values and the agency or people running the agency's values don't match. And so what do we do with that? Because it creates hopelessness, like you're saying, right? And it could be the work performance, like you're talking about, like I just want to do the same thing, or they're kind of on a downhill slide, or ROD, we call it retired on duty, because they're 18 months out and they're like, I'm not taking on anything new. I'm just riding it out. Yeah. And, maybe I'll get there too. I mean, you can't quite blame them after 30, 35 years. Like, you kind of earned that.
The problem is we have some retired on duty folks that are like 11 years in.
That can.
I mean, we don't, but none that I would be willing to call out in public, I don't think. But, I mean, there are organizations that do. You're like, you've been here 10 years, and what do you do here?
Yeah.
What are you bringing?
So I've been through, with a lot of turnover, I've been through, I think, 5 chiefs, if that makes sense. And so anytime you have a new chief, there's a cultural shift here. There's a lot of anxiety, worry, what's going to change, what's going to be different. And I've seen it enough times now, I don't even worry about it, because I'm just like, here's my job, what I focus on. But when hopelessness happened for me, what I had to realize, and I want to just take this sidebar here for the wellness perspective and give some of our wellness program to people, that you said some important stuff. Like, it was explained to me, like, all the things that I had done to create merit, to drive this organization, to say, this is where I fit, this is what I see, this is how I want to do it, here's the plan, here's how it fits in. Do you approve? Do you like that? Can I have some autonomy there? I was met with extreme resistance, and extreme resistance on the we just want to do it the same as last time. It was a time of DEI, which was made very clear to me, which was devastating to me morally. And then it was very clearly explained to me that the spelling and grammar was more important than the merit of my work for this particular job. Now, that's offensive to hear with all the work that you've done at first. Yeah. And then I realized, just like what we're talking about, is they're building a team. This is what they value. I don't fit into that value clearly. And I started realizing I don't want to fit in that value, because you put me in there and I'm going to be doing policy, procedure, finance, stuff I don't want to be a part of. You need me out. I want to be out working with the people, building the culture.
And you don't want to fake it every day.
No, I would be miserable, right? And so where I was offended and hopeless, I became understanding that, it's their job to build the team. I don't fit in. And like you said, right now.
Yeah.
And so we've seen culture shift, we've seen politics shift, we've seen chiefs shift, organizations shift around, and maybe it's later where someone will value the merit that I bring. But what I want to tell people is, if that gets hopeless or whatever, if you're watching this from a civil service, you got a promotion or you got a test coming up, here's what I'll tell you: find hope in other places. Just because you don't feel valued there doesn't mean you're not valued somewhere else in the organization. We talk in our wellness program about getting rid of the things that are toxic to you, and what control do you have over your work day, the things that you can focus on and still gain that experience, still gain that merit, maybe explore these other options that they want and see if it's something that you like before you decide to promote again or whatever. But first responders are so valuable now. And we talked earlier about like, if the organization isn't a fit, maybe looking at a different organization, because what used to keep us here was like, oh, I've got longevity and pay scale and all this time off, and now I'm seeing these hiring practices where they're desperate for lateral officers, and they're like, we'll give you your seniority, we'll give you your time off, we'll give you the equal pay, we'll give you $50,000 to come over here. So it's not like you're not valuable. And what I've experienced is that the more you apply the things that we're talking about, if it's not a fit within the agency, okay, where is it a fit in the agency, or is it a fit somewhere else?
In a different agency. Yeah.
Or, like in my case, our ability to do the things that we want to do for our own business.
Yeah.
Super rewarding. So
Yeah.
don't get discouraged because right now isn't the time where you fit in the team. I guess is the message I want to share with people too, because that ends up being devastating. People just lose their careers or they just burn out, like you're saying.
And it doesn't mean that there's not people around you that don't value you, because there's people on your team right now that in an unofficial way do value you, do view you as a mentor, do need you there to teach them and be patient and be someone they can lean on. That, like, I don't want to diminish the importance of that.
Yeah.
Like, I can't be who I am as a leader if I don't have folks under me that can unofficially be those folks, be mentors, be coaches, take on leadership opportunities unofficially, because me, my lieutenants, they can't be everywhere all the time. And it's a great opportunity to display your capabilities and build the merit and practice. Maybe you learn that whatever you did that time didn't work, so you don't want to do it that way next time. That's okay. I can't agree more. When we talk about like the burnout piece and the I'm trying to make the organization better. I'm trying to support my people. I'm trying to find ways that we can be even more high functioning than we already are. It might actually be the barriers we get from above us that burn us out quicker than those below us that don't want to keep up. And because the thing is like, we can, as an organization, we can pull one weight behind us. We can, and we can pull two weights behind us. The problem is if the person steering the ship doesn't want to steer, we can do everything we want to do, but we're not going to go anywhere.
And that can get frustrating.
And that probably is more frustrating, and creates that hopelessness and burnout. That irritation, that edginess at work much quicker than the people that we talked about first that are the retired on duties. Because to some degree we're used to that. We know we're occasionally going to have those folks and we can bring them along and we're going to okay, well, we're counting down with you, bud. And so we're all going to celebrate on the day you said, right? That's real, and that's okay.
Please don't change your mind.
Yeah. Like, after 30 years, like, I agree with you. I joke all the time at work that my career is going to be a bell curve, that I'm sort of peaked right now, and over the next 10 years, I'm going to work my way back down to where I started, because then I don't have to do anything at the end, which I'm kidding, but maybe not. We'll see. So,
well, that burnout, I have a psychologist I've talked to and take some classes with. I'm trying to get more involved in maybe a podcast or something. But she says, great quote. She's like, PTSI comes from outside the department. Burnout comes from within. And it's not just people above you. It's people around you in the toxicity environment and stuff. And so there's a lot you can do to avoid that or change that around. But it is important for us to acknowledge, because if you find where you fit in, you can be super rewarding, right?
Yeah.
And for where I'm at now, I absolutely love my job. I'm energized by the people. I love working with them. And I realize if I do anything different in this agency, I won't be able to do that.
Yeah.
And so what's really important to me, working with the people.
Yeah.
That is trying to have a positive effect on them, their work environment, their training, whatever they need for the night. That's what's important to me now. And I realize if at different positions in the agency really would limit my ability to do that.
I can't agree more. I mean, we talked briefly in our first episode of this that I spent just a moment in time in an administrative day shift position, and in a hurry, I realized this isn't for me. This doesn't fill my bucket. It doesn't. Yeah. It's not doing for me what I thought it would do. And I know that sounds very selfish, self-fulfilling, like, well, it's what I want. It's what's good for me. And that was never the feeling. The feeling was like that I could be better somewhere else. And I demoted. Let's send me back.
And your agency was accepting of that. It didn't.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's like, this isn't for me. Like I enjoyed the work, to be honest. Like some of the work we were doing, some of the administrative projects we were working on and developing, which in a sense did help the people be successful.
Sure.
It was fun work. Like I would still consider dabbling in it, but I felt like I should have been somewhere else. Like I had this desire and these tools to utilize in a different way, in a different setting. And yeah, I just said, I'd like to go back, and I don't know what it looks like. I might have to start all over from the bottom up. I'm willing to do it. Or if I can go back to being a lieutenant from a BC, happy to do it. I ended up going back to the fire engine because there was no spot on the medic unit for me. So, I walked away from the everyday paramedicine piece of my job, but instantly I was back in a spot where I was like, this is me. Like this is where my strengths lie.
Yep.
This is where I want to be. This is where I think I can be the best within the organization.
And how rewarding and how fulfilling was that for you?
It was,
knowing you got 20 years left to do it, or 15 or whatever.
I don't even know if it was yes, of course it was rewarding, and I was grateful for the opportunity to go back and have a redo on some decisions I had made.
Yeah.
But it was actually more of a weight lifted off of me, and I was like, I just felt so good coming back to work. I was at a point in 10 weeks. That's all I did was 10 weeks. But I was at a point where I was like, I don't want to get up and go to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't want to go to work.
Yep.
And it's like, it came to me very quickly that over 15 years prior, I had never gotten up and said, I don't want to go in today.
Yes.
It's like, well, that's weird, because the only thing that's changed is
Your
my
assignment.
role.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that is such a good message, because I hear from people all the time that, get to a specialty assignment, or they get to doing something different, or they promote and they deeply regret it because they weren't doing the thing that they loved in the first place, or the work isn't as rewarding. And to have the courage to do that, and an organization that kind of accepted you, I think it's great, because I think it says a lot for morale, your morale, the people around you. Because if you're miserable, inevitably the people around you are going to feel it in some way, shape, or form. And that's not good for the people we lead either.
Yeah. Yeah, and the guy who took my spot where I was, doing a great job. He loves it, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, he hasn't said otherwise, and I hope he'd feel like he could if he didn't. In a way, I would like to think that I paved a path for other people to be able to say that, and we've had other examples within our organization of people wanting to try something and realizing it wasn't for them.
That's great.
And I think, it kind of goes back to right where we started today.
Yeah.
We want to hire good people that are coachable.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's great. And I don't want to give the message that, quit your job, quit your specialty, whatever.
Yeah.
But to a certain degree, what we teach them on this program is, where do you fit? Where can you find purpose? Where do you find joy in your job? And that will spread to other people. And you can have that control and not be miserable and really enjoy the rest of your career. So I think we're pretty much wrapping up for today.
Yeah.
James, I sure appreciate you being with us.
Yeah, it's fun.
We talked about some stuff that's not always easy to talk about, but you gave me a lot of hope when we first talked about what we have control over in how we hire and promote people. So, and how, as a participant in that, how you can navigate through that to see, where you fit. So hopefully that helped you. Thanks for joining. Like, subscribe, share, as always. We appreciate your support on this channel, and we'll see you next time.